Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Sip and Spin. I am the Tipsy Spinster, and today is a wash day. In my glass is a very simple cocktail, just two ingredients, unspiked grapefruit rosemary, which is a non-alcoholic mixer, which means you don't have to add anything else to it, and it creates an amazing, sippable, non-alcoholic cocktail. I added just a little bit of Hendrick's gin and I boosted the complexity. It's still an incredibly smooth cocktail that has all of the botanical flavors. It's incredibly smooth, complex, good on the palate, perfect for days when you're washing wool because a lot of the washing wool is just waiting for the scouring to happen. I think I'm going to name this cocktail Wiltshire water. And the reason why I chose that is because the primary fiber that I'm working with today is Wiltshire horn. As this year's Tour de Fleece gets ready and we're starting to prep for that, I realized that I had done a huge disservice to a lot of the Shave 'em to Save 'em breeds. I started collecting all of the breeds back in 2019 when the program first started, and I think then it was more about the collecting, and I realize now how much of a novice I was at so many things just those few short years ago. Now I'm looking at it once again with fresh eyes, and I have to extend a huge thank you to Dolores of Fun with Fiber. Dolores has an online website, and she took a lot of the work and frustration out of getting some of those harder to find breeds. Wiltshire Horn is on the watch list for the Shave 'em to Save 'em program. And you would think that just because it's on the watch list, it might be a little bit easier to find, but it's not. One of the reasons why it is not an easy fiber to find, nor is it an inexpensive fiber to find, is primarily because Wiltshire Horn is a meat sheep. And understandably, farmers don't save the wool. There has never been an interest in using the wool in the Fiber Arts program. Dolores reached out to Keith Conover of Conover Farm and developed a working relationship with him. When he had his sheep sheared this year, she was able to go through, skirt, and put together an absolutely amazing package. So, for those of you that are interested in getting some of this fabulous fiber, please check out the link in my description. She's also offering a 20% discount if you sign up for her newsletter. That link is in the description as well. And I want to talk today about this fiber. Now, I'm going to be very honest with you. As I said, when the Livestock Conservancy program first came out, I collected all of the passport stickers. My passport book is full. And as I started going through my samples, I realized I didn't scour properly. I didn't spin properly. And there is definitely a difference in fiber and fiber producers. And while I don't know if this was an expected outcome, as awareness for these watch list critical, these heritage breeds, as awareness for these breeds has increased, I think that what goes into the I don't even know what the best way to say this is. The fiber production, for lack of a better word, I feel like we're getting better fiber now. So while the Livestock Conservancy just wanted to connect fiber artists with farmers and make more people aware of these breeds and the potential, I'm seeing an increase in the quality of fiber. So now I am going to spend probably another 2 years going back and revisiting all of the breeds in my passport book and comparing them, because the first sample of Wiltshire horn that I had, I'm going to be really honest with you, it, it's mulch. It went into the garden because I didn't feel like there was anything that I could do with it. And so Dolores gave me a whole new way to take a look at this fiber. So let's dive in and take a look at what we have here. So Wiltshire horn, as I said, is an incredibly short staple length fiber. It's tiny. And one of the things that you want to look for in sheep is honesty, for one thing. Dolores told me when she sent me this, she said that the tips come off, and it's really cool to see. So as you can see, and honesty is one of my, I mean, like, oh my gosh, thank you for being so honest. And you can actually see where the break is in this fiber. So when I pull on this tip is going to pop right off. This is an incredibly important thing to know and be aware of before you start scouring and processing it. These little bits right here, they're usable because this breed felts super easy. So I can save this and use it in a felting project, but this is the fiber that I want to spin. Now the shorter locks, those don't have a break at all. These are incredibly strong. So there's the raw fiber. And over here, I have some of it processed. And we'll do a comparison because it's so amazing how white it's this creamy color naturally, and it's scoured to this beautiful white, which is fantastic. It is low lanolin, so you're not going to need a lot of heat to get the lanolin out. I kept my temperature just a little over 120. So 120 degrees for 15 minutes is how I scoured this. And then I took it out and it's all very fluffy. Now, I got a little excited and I just dumped some of this in, and you can see before I do anything with this, I am going to need to pull those tips off. And so I did. I went through, and the tips, they scoured really pretty, but they do pop right off. So I went through and processed some of that. And the first group, or the first chunk that I did, I carded it. And as you can see, I do still have some neps in here. And I realized that this fiber is probably a fiber that you're going to want to comb, because in combing, you get this fabulous fluffy cloud, which works out well because Dolores will send you a Diz tool in this package, and it's almost like she read my mind. Combing this fiber is really the way to go. And interestingly enough, the waste that you get, this was the waste from carding it. This fiber felts. It felt just by breathing on it, which is exactly what I did. So I took the, it's going to be a cat toy. So I took the waste from carding, and all I did was roll it in my hands and blow on it, which is how I usually check to see how fast something will felt. And just the friction from my hands, I ended up with a felt, and I did a couple. So you can see this one is a much tighter felt ball. So not only is Wiltshire horn good for spinning, it's also good for felting. And I did spin just a really small sample. And I've been spinning more and more with my support spindles. So I figured I would grab one very quickly. This is the same one that I used for the sample. This fiber does like to be spun fairly thin, but since I spun with, this is combed, I figured I would start with the rolag that I did, the carded fiber that I did. And as you can see, the carded fiber has some more texture to it. So that's something to consider. If you want yarn that has a little bit more texture. You might want to card it. If you want a smoother yarn, comb it. And let's see. I'm going to try and go thicker. Which thicker yarn does have a lot more character to it. I think this yarn wants to be thin. I'll need to process more of it. I just processed a small sample because I wanted to play with it. And that's what I've done with most of these. I've sampled a lot. And so over the course, since the Livestock Conservancy has continued the program, I feel like now I'm not in a rush. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned over the course of the last 2 years is how important having patience is when you're working with fiber. I feel like a lot of the mistakes that I've made have been because I've rushed. I have not taken the time to sample. It's kind of like making swatches. Ugh. But it's a necessary, especially in a fiber that felt as easy as this one does. I definitely like that it is versatile enough that drop spindle, support spindle, spinning wheel, whatever tool you choose, it behaves in much the same way that other, I want to say down fibers behave. This reminds me a little bit of South Down in how it interacts with the spinning tools that I've used. I do like it. I think it has a lot of potential. And even though it is a short wool when plied, oh, I don't know if you can hear it. It's an incredibly strong wool. I think that sheep breeds primarily bred for meat are get a huge disservice. I think that they are forgotten, and I feel like giving Wiltshire Horn a chance is definitely something that you will want to do because surprisingly, this is a really, really fun fiber to work with. And I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to work with it. And I would encourage you to get some and play with it yourself. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. If you've had the opportunity to work with Wiltshire Horn, please feel free to comment below. Let me know how it went for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, happy spinning.